right, so we're going to talk about 3 ways to grow your business and your impact with a podcast. Are you ready?
Yes.
Awesome. Now, Karen asked me to tell this story, so I added it to my presentation. I will be telling you how I kidnapped Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. She said, you got to share that story. I don't normally tell it, but we added it because it's Ken's event. Before we dive into how you can grow your business and your impact with a podcast, this is some really cool stuff that just happened for us. This was just written about in Inc. magazine. This is how to attract clients to dominate your market with podcasting. Then a couple weeks ago, I was interviewed for Forbes. Is podcast marketing right for your business? Which is really awesome. I've also been interviewed on the news, on NBC twice and CBS once in the last month. So it's been a really exciting time for market domination. But Karen asked, so I will tell you how I kidnapped Kevin Harrington. So I am a huge Shark Tank fan. Everybody watch Shark Tank? Yes, awesome. Best show on TV. Best reality show on TV. I happen to have some inside baseball on that. So about 5-6 years ago, a friend of mine named Tim from my BNI chapter when I was back in BNI, a networking group, called me and said, hey, did you know Kevin Harrington is coming to Buffalo to speak? And I said, nobody comes to Buffalo to speak. He said, well, he founded this organization called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, with Michael Dell, many years ago. And the regional conference is in Buffalo, and it's like the 20th anniversary or something, so he's coming to keynote the event. And I said, I don't know what EO is. Is it open to the public? It turned out this particular conference was open to the public, and a ticket was only $300. So I bought a ticket. I had 8 meetings scheduled for that day, all of which I moved. I went to go to the event. It was an awesome event. I saw Kevin speak. It was absolutely, he did a great job. And then he was sitting at the table in the back, signing books, taking pictures, right? Because that's what you do when you had a new book out. And everybody's standing in line to get their autograph, get their picture taken for social media, get their book signed. And I said, if I do that, I won't stand out. Everybody's doing the same thing. I said, I'm a marketing guy, I gotta come up with something different. So I think of something. I get to my turn, and inspiration struck, and I said, Mr. Harrington, I'm here to take you to the airport. And he said, no, that's okay. I'm gonna take a cab. Only billionaire I know who takes taxi. This is pre-Uber, by the way. He said, no, I'm gonna take a cab. And I said, I insist. I am taking you to the airport. And he said, okay. He said, all right, but I have 2 meetings first. So why don't you come to the meetings with me? You can be a fly on the wall and watch me work, and then we'll go to the airport. And I said, oh, all right. I guess I'll go. So I'm sitting in meeting. Are you waving to me?
Just put the microphone away from you now a little bit.
Microwave.
Not that far.
Not that far.
That's good.
Better?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. So I'm texting my wife, going, honey, I'm taking Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank to the airport. And she says, in your car? And I said, at the time, I was driving a Toyota RAV4. And I said, because we only had 2 kids back then. And I said, well, it's Buffalo, honey. I can't exactly go rent a Bentley by the hour. And even if I did, he's got 13 of them. It's not exactly that impressive. And she said, well, could you at least go clean your car? At least throw everything in the back. And I said, well, I got 2 kids at the time. And I said, well, I'm supposed to be watching him work. I'm in a meeting. And she said, say you have to go to the bathroom and go clean your car. So I cleaned my car. I drove very slowly to the airport and took longer than was necessary. And he was nice and didn't say, hey, how come you're going the speed limit or below? And so I ended up with about 20 to 30 minutes to pitch him on the way to the airport. I gave my pitch. He said, okay, send me what you got. I sent him what I call a shock and awe box, which it's an aluminum flight case, the kind that carry the bomb codes in for the Secret Service. It had a DVD player in it with a personal message from me to him, a stack of all my books, and a bunch of other material. And his secretary interrupted the board meeting he was in to make him watch it in front of everybody, because she said, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. It got me a text message of, I got the box, I'm getting on a plane, going to New York. When I get back, let's talk, I'm interested. So that started our relationship, and about a year ago, we launched the Sharkpreneur podcast. which now literally goes to millions of people, where we interview amazing entrepreneurs about what it takes to grow and scale a business. That because Kevin and I speak at a lot of the same events. He speaks a lot more than I do all over the world, but we speak at a lot of the same conferences. We're judges together at an event called Pitch Tank that occurs in Las Vegas every year in July. And at the last, a year or so ago, he says, "What are you doing that's sexiest right now?" And I said, "We produce a podcast, we turn it into a book, we make it a bestseller, and we make our clients the authority in their marketplace, and it gets them a lot of business." He said, "That's really cool. I want a podcast. I don't want to do any work." I said, "Okay." He said, "You've already got a successful podcast," which I did, called Direct Response Marketing. He said, "Why don't we rebrand it around me, and I'll come on the show and we'll do it together," which started Sharkpreneur. So that's the story of Kevin Harrington. I'm now going to share with you something I learned from Blair Warren, which is the one sentence that will summarize everything you ever need to know about marketing. So if you want to write it down, this is one sentence, and then I'll show you how you're going to apply it to your business with a podcast. And literally, it's exploded our business. It's done wonders for our clients. It can do the same thing for you, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. So here's the one sentence. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams. I'll let you take your pictures of the slides really quick, because it might take you a while to write the sentence. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures. It's not your fault. Allay their fears. It's gonna be okay. Confirm their suspicions. They didn't want you to know this stuff. And help them throw rocks at their enemies, because the enemy of the enemy is my friend. So that is Blair Warren's one sentence persuasion course. And now we're going to apply that to your business with a strategic podcast. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about who this is for, who this process will work for. You've got to have a high transaction value. So, for example, we have a client in my hometown of Buffalo, New York, that is a Buffalo chicken wing and pizza place. Now, if you're selling $2 slices of pizza, you don't need a podcast. This process won't work for you. However, our social media for them works great. But you want to have a high transaction value. So if you're selling a $7 ebook and that's your entire business, don't do this. But if that ebook is the front end that ultimately gets people to spend hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars with you, this is perfect for you. It takes 20 to 30 minutes a week. That's the interview. That's doing the podcast. And we'll talk about why it's 20 to 30 minutes in just a little bit. And you've got to be coachable. You can't want to reinvent the wheel. We've got a process that we've done. We've produced over 42 different shows, all with episodes every single week for the last couple of years. It's worked. We've broken it as many times as possible and got it down to a science. And if you follow it, it will work. If you mess with it, I take no responsibility for your results. So it's for you if you're tired of being one of the best kept secrets in your industry. If you've got something, you've got a message, you want to make a bigger impact, and you just don't know how to get the word out to the right people, or you need to get the word out to more of the right people to get you to pay you more often, more money, more frequently, as we were told earlier, then this will work. So we're going to learn how to do that. This is an example of some interesting different businesses we've done this in. So this is Craig Turner, who is a political consultant. He is a local political consultant, and that if you want to win a local election, he's the guy you hire to win it for you. So if you want to get to school board, county commissioner, mayor of your town, he's the guy you hire. And he had been doing this for decades and won 80-something straight campaigns in a row for his clients, but then said, I can only serve in this local market, or I have to get flown in and do stuff. He said, I want to reach more people. There's 400,000 local elections, local officials a year. So created a podcast, created ebooks, created virtual products, created membership sites, created courses, all on the back of his concept of how to win a local election. And now it's working because the podcast is getting him out to exactly the right audience he wants. This is Ian Wellham. They are consultants for accountants. So they help accountants reinvent themselves, get away from just doing taxes, decommoditize them, get them away from people complaining about the prices they pay, and totally change the relationship accountants have with their business owner clients. Again, launched through a podcast. And online people, if you hang with us till the end, I'll even show you how you can get on Sharkpreneur and get exposure to our massive audience. So really quick, what type of business are you in? We're going to do a tiny bit of interaction and then we'll do questions along the way. So if you've got a mic near you, grab a mic, turn it on, and tell me what business you're in and we'll see how this applies. Somebody got a mic? Mics? No. Diane? For people who weren't here earlier?
For people who weren't here, oh, we need to turn this on, of course. Now we're on.
There you go. Gotta eat the mic.
Gotta eat the mic, definitely eat the mic. I do voiceovers for messages on hold, commercials, books, all kinds of things, and I also am a voice and presentation trainer.
Awesome. So, and then we're gonna play, because I like to work with the people that we're talking to. So, for example, I'm a presentation trainer. Who are you teaching how to present better?
Anybody and everybody, because we all speak and we all present in different ways.
Very true. However, I'm going to tell you that everybody and everybody is not a target market.
No, it isn't, is it?
Unless you've got the marketing budget of Nike and can afford to reach anybody and everybody, you can't. So play with me. Give me a slightly narrower version than everybody on the planet.
CEOs and salespeople.
Perfect. Okay. So if she starts a podcast on presenting skills for CEOs, and she interviews CEOs on the podcast and talks to them about their presenting, because you have to be entertaining. If she talks to them about that and how they use it in their business, and then follows up with them afterwards about what a fabulous job they did, and hey, you mentioned on the show that your biggest challenge is X. I got an idea. Do you mind if I share it with you? They will say yes. And we'll get to how that secret sauce works in just a minute, of how you turn podcast guests into either referral sources, centers of influence, or people who give you money. Sound good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay. So, as Karen said, I have written 7 best-selling marketing books, including Market Domination for Podcasting, which is on the shelves of Barnes & Noble right now. This is my family, my wonderful wife Rebecca, our kids Max, Ellen, Lily, who are there at my book signing at Barnes & Noble, which was really cool to get to do. It is also on sale. It is also on the shelves at Target. It is also on the shelves at Walmart. It is also on Amazon. It is everywhere. And one of the cool things that I had nothing to do with is my last name is Green. So I lucked out. Ken talked about the Lucky Sperm Club earlier. I lucked out because there's another really famous billionaire marketer with a last name really close to mine. So if you go to Barnes & Noble, you'll see right next to me on the shelf is Seth Godin.
I like it.
So I have gotten so many clients who have gone in for a Seth Godin book, grabbed mine because it was next to it and caught their eye, took advantage of the offer in the book, and then said, hey, I found you next to Seth Godin and I want that podcast. So if you want to all go change your last names, it's another marketing strategy. It's a little bit different, but I interview 23 of the top podcasters who have audiences in the millions and how they made it work. And most importantly, I said, give me the secrets to how you grew your audience and how you make money. I also interviewed Roland Frazier from Digital Marketer. I also interviewed Sally Hogshead from Fascinate and some other amazing marketers about how they grow their businesses too. Again, the book is on sale literally everywhere. Who wants a copy?
I want one!
Okay, she took action. There were some people, wow. Okay, so some people were interested. She was committed. She's committed. All right, so let's first back up for a second. What is a podcast? So a podcast, in case you don't know, is basically like a radio show on your phone. It's a radio show on your what? Phone. Awesome. Okay, so why should you podcast? Why would you want a radio show on everybody's phone? Well, right now there are 1 billion people listening to podcasts. That's billion with a B. In the next 2 years, that number is going to triple to 3 billion. It's going to triple for 2 reasons. One, the global proliferation of smartphones. Everybody's got one. And 2, a nice invention by Apple called CarPlay, which if any of you have bought a new car relatively recently, you'll notice there is the Apple Podcast button is on your dashboard is a native app. And what a native app means is you can't delete it even if you want to. As Ken says, Apple's making an impact whether they like it or not. In this case, they like it a lot. Because if you're getting a new phone or you're getting a new car, you're going to be listening to Apple Podcasts because they're trying to do away with terrestrial radio. Now, there's a guy who's very angry about that. You might recognize Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
Now, why would you want to have a radio show on your phone? Now, you may love Rush or hate Rush, which is another marketing lesson. He is on purpose very polarizing. He is getting people to either passionately love who he is or hate it. So does Howard Stern. There's no he wants the haters to go away, and he wants the people who love him to give him money. You don't have to be that polarizing, but there's no money in the middle. You're either boiling hot, freezing cold, lukewarm, there's no money. So Rush has built himself an incredible brand, a whole lot of wealth, and a ginormous following on the back of his radio show. Now, if you've got the money and you want to start a terrestrial radio show and build it to that point, God bless you, good, we can't help you. If you want to do it on a podcast with almost a tiny, tiny marketing budget, then this is for you. Now, there are a couple reasons why you might not do it. So why don't people podcast? Do you know who this guy is? This is Stone Cold Steve Austin, who is a WWE wrestling champion. Yes, SmackDown, you got it. Now, Steve said he'd wanted to do a podcast for years, but he was afraid of the technology. Well, here's all the technology you need now. A phone. That's it. We literally have, now, we literally have clients who do their shows on their phone, and that's it. But I'm going to recommend you take one step up from that. Even if you wanted to, you could use this, a digital voice recorder from Staples or Office Depot. That's if you're doing it in person. If you're in your local market interviewing local people, you could do it that way. We actually recommend, there is a free software program called Zoom for video chat that we have almost all of our clients record their shows on. We like it a lot because it records both video and audio as separate tracks. So that means the audio track is an audio podcast. It goes to iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Spotify. And the video is a YouTube web TV show. So you get 2 for 1. And by the way, as long as your interviews are less than 40 minutes, which they should be, Zoom is free. I can't get any cheaper than free. All right, so Steve got over his technology issues, but then what happened? There are 2 different types of podcasts. You can do an interview show where I interview Dan, ask Dan questions, and we have a conversation. Or I can do what's called a rant podcast. A rant podcast is just me talking about something. It doesn't have to be a rant. I don't have to be mad to rant. It's just one person talking. Now, Steve said, I'm going to do my own show. I don't want to interview anybody. I said, okay. There are some very successful rant podcasts. My favorite is Wizard of Ads by Roy Williams, which is 7 minutes long, and he's the highest paid advertising copywriter on the planet. It's called Wizard of Ads, 7 minutes. It's really, really good. There's amazing marketing lessons in it. My second favorite one is Garrett White, Daily Fuel, Wake Up Warrior, Warrior on Fire. Again, 5 to 7 minutes. I said, Steve, please do an interview show. No, man, I was wrestling for 20 years. I got all these stories of life on the road and the wrestling matches and the girls and the fans and all this stuff. I'm going to do my own show. Okay? He's like, I could talk for hours every day about this stuff, never run out of material. Okay? Gets in the studio, hits the record button, 7.5 minutes in, goes dead. Silent. Steve, what happened? It's really hard to be interesting by yourself. This is why we told you so. I'm not going to say I told you so because you're a lot bigger than me, but I told you so. All right, so in a local market, you're also going to take that podcast, and I'm going to try to turn it into a book in a minute. This is Lori Ellis McLeod, who's a financial advisor in Madison, Wisconsin, and she works with small business owners. So she has a podcast and a book called Make Smart Choices with Your Madison Business. And we got that book, which I'll show you later, how we got that book to the top of Amazon. We got her a book signing where she was signing autographs and getting her pictures taken, and people were asking for her book, and then, of course, becoming clients. So here are, if you want to write them down, the 3 ways to grow your business with a podcast. Number 1, you can use it for retention and referrals. So if Diane is my client, and I have Diane on my show, and she talks about I talk about how wonderful Diane is, and Diane talks about how wonderful I am, and the show airs in front of 2 million people, can she fire me the next day? I mean, she could, but probably not, because she's going to love me for giving her the exposure and making her feel all warm and fuzzy and telling all these other people how wonderful she is. And oops, she just told everyone on air how wonderful I am, so she's going to stick around longer. Even if she's going to fire me the day before, she really can't now. I wouldn't do it specifically to people who are about to fire you. I've never tried that strategy, full disclosure, but it does increase retention. It also increases referrals. This is Brian Ridgway, who is a spiritual coach and energy shaman, healer. I don't even know how to describe the esoteric type of work he does, but he was on our show, and literally less than a week later, he showed up on my calendar online. And I said, "What's up?" And he said, "I booked a call for you with the founder of this network marketing company I'm involved in for this new beyond organic, super duper energy, whatever, drink, fruit, wine, food, super thing, because I want you to talk to him about marketing and I want to be on the call to introduce you." I said, "Awesome." Magically, it happened a week after he was on the show.
Interesting.
Go figure. New referral sources. So if there's someone you want referrals from, whether you already know them and they're just not referring as much as you would like, or if you'd like to get into their network, having them on your show is a phenomenal way to do it. So this is Michael Drew of Promote a Book. Michael Drew has 88 New York Times best-selling books in a row. If you want to be on the New York Times bestseller list, you hire him, write him a big check, and he gets your book to the New York Times bestseller list. And I said, and he's written New York Times bestsellers himself, and I said, all of his authors already have books, but they don't have podcasts. They'd be great clients for us. So I had Michael on the show. Of course, he's like, "Thank you so much for having me on the show. It was an honor to meet Kevin," and blah, 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 blah. And I followed up with him and then said, "Hey, I had an idea about something you said on the show. You want to talk about it?" Of course, I'd love to talk about it, because the people you interview are now like your new best friends. They love you because you just gave them what Mary Kay of Mary Kay Makeup says people want more than money and sex. It's recognition and fame. Even if you have 9 listeners to your show, they don't know that. There's still some recognition and mini fame. So I said, "Hey, Michael, your authors don't have podcasts. They should get interviewed on our shows to get more exposure. And some of them should probably have their own show." And he's like, "You're right, let's talk about that." Boom, new referral source. And new prospects. So this is Scott Whitaker, who has a membership site on how to have a membership site. You got that, right? He has a membership site on membership sites. So I said, all of your people who are buying who want to have membership sites, depending on the business they are in, should promote their membership site with a podcast. I didn't lead with that. I led with having him on the show, talking about the awesome work he's doing, and then following up and saying, "Hey, I had an idea. Yes, I want to talk about it. Hey, your membership site people should have shows too. And hey, the podcast would be great content to put in their membership site." That's a good idea. How about that? Okay, so again, retention and referrals, new referral sources, new prospects / clients. With me so far?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so how you are going to create a podcast, turn into a book, and make yourself an authority in your marketplace. There are 10 steps. I'm on number one. Number one is build your list. Who do you want on your show? You have to identify the target market for your show, because it can't be anybody and everybody. I'm going to keep throwing you under the bus. I know she was not a shill. Did not pay her to say that. Okay, so number one, you have to know, who do you want on your show? Who is your target market? Who do you want as clients? Who do you want as referral sources? Number two, you've got to market to them to get them to do the interview. There's got to be a reason why they should do the show. Now, the good thing is, podcasts, even though there are a billion people listening to them, they're still new enough that a lot of people don't necessarily ask any questions. It's a media appearance and they say yes because they want exposure. They don't necessarily say, how many listeners do you have? How many downloads do you have? How many subscribers do you have? And if they ask that question, you just say, we're launching a new show. You be honest. Truth in marketing, as we discussed in dinner last night, what Jocelyn ordered based on the picture on the menu was actually what showed up at the table, and she was super happy about it. She's like, oh my God, it looks just like the picture. And Ken said, it's truth in marketing. And I said, don't say that tomorrow. All right, so you've got to market them to do the interview. You've got to conduct the interview and record it. Because if you don't record it, no one's going to know about it. Listen, we had someone who didn't hit the record button. I have to include this because it happened. Everything that's in here is because it happened. Someone did it Well, you think it's common sense, but it's common sense. My wife likes to say common sense to you does not equal common sense to everybody. She thinks there's common sense about how you load the dishwasher. Apparently, every time I've loaded it in 14 years, I've been wrong. Now, granted, I did look at the instruction manual, and I am following it, but she loads it, the instruction manual is wrong. She loads it her way. Her way, see, I've taken pictures of it when she's loaded it so that the next time I would get it right. And then I load it that way, and she's like, no, that doesn't go. I'm like, you just did it yesterday. Well, now there's different dishes in it. It's a puzzle every time.
She's absolutely right.
She is you're married. Yes, of course she's right. I keep fighting, but it's only been 14 years. All right, so when you do the interview, you are now a reporter. So you get to ask them anything you want. A fourth strategy to grow your business that isn't in here is interview people you want to learn from and pick their brains. Because if I didn't know Ken and I wanted to pick Ken's brain, he might say, join my mastermind for $25,000. Or he might say, it's $1,000 an hour for consulting. But if I get him on the show, it's free. And if I can sneak in a couple quick questions and learn what I want. Not all of it. That costs more. So again, reporters ask questions. Who, what, where, why, how. I will give you my #1 magic question that is what I use to turn them into clients or referral sources later, which is, with all the success you've achieved, you're making them look good. The show is not about you. The show is about your guests and giving them an opportunity to show off. But what I call my money question is, with all the success you've achieved, Dan, what's your biggest challenge now? And then we put in some other sandwich questions that make him show off and make him feel super good. But we make sure, like middle of the interview, what's your biggest challenge? And then warm and fuzzy, warm and fuzzy, warm and fuzzy, so he doesn't even really think about it. And then when I follow up, I said, hey, you mentioned you had a challenge with blah, blah, blah. I got an idea. You mind if I share it with you for 5 minutes? Of course you can. Because again, they don't perceive you as a salesperson anymore. You're their new best friend. You just led with a tremendous amount of value, so they will happily have a conversation with you. And when you tell them their idea, they won't go, oh man, you're trying to sell me something. They'll go, that's great, how do I do it? 8 times out of 10, literally, when I ask that, when I follow up and give them my idea, they say, can I just hire you to do that? I say, funny you should ask. We just happen to have a contract pre-prepared for that exact solution. It's amazing. All right, then you've got to transcribe the interview and edit it. So a transcription is literally where someone types every word that you say, the whole interview. No, you cannot use dragon speaking or one of the things for it, because every other word will be wrong, and it will take you more time to fix it than it would to just get it done by a human in the first place. The good news are there are humans who work very cheaply everywhere to transcribe stuff or do anything else that you might want. So you're going to transcribe it, and then it's got to be edited, because the way we talk is not the way people read. So all of the ums, the ahs, the you-knows, the likes, the endless run-on sentences, all of those have to go away. If we were transcribing this presentation right now, there might be 4 pages where it doesn't look like I took a breath. That all has to get turned into like easily readable paragraphs and sentences. There's times where we had a transcript the other day where it was literally every 5 words the other person said, yeah, I get it, okay, right on. Like first it's not surfing, and then it's like we got to make that page and a half is literally just 1 paragraph. So it's got to get edited. And then you wash, rinse, and repeat until you have enough episodes to make a book. If your episodes are 20 to 30 minutes, it will take you about 8 to 10 episodes to make a real book. Physical book, bookstore book.
Yeah, 20 books.
You save $20 by running up here.
I mean, I have 20 books.
Oh.
The podcast I've done.
You have, you're counting how many podcasts you've already done.
Yeah.
I missed that. I apologize. I got it now.
Books.
You can turn them into $20. So you have hundreds of episodes. That's awesome. Okay, so then it's got to look like an actual book. So you need graphic design. You need a front cover. Again, I have to tell you this because people have not done it. You need a spine. You need a back cover. You need an ISBN number. It has to be a real book. You could use this to solely be an ebook if you wanted, but which has more perceived value, a PDF download or a physical book? Book, exactly. And then it's got to be laid out right. So it's got to be laid out to look like it's supposed to be a book, right? If it's unedited raw transcripts, people are going to say they want their $20 back. Or maybe they'll, if the content, so my first 10 episodes of my original show, I started a podcast on accident. I wish I had thought about it, but I interviewed a bunch of marketing experts for my 5th book, Cutting Edge Marketing Magic. And I started listening to podcasts around it a couple of years ago, and I said, hi, all these podcasts are interviews. I just interviewed 10 people. I'm going to toss them up on iTunes, figure out how to get them to iTunes, and see what happens. Well, problem number 1, they were interviews done over the phone. This was pre-Zoom, and it was literally the raw, unedited audio of the phone call. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, is Mr. Johnson there? Hang on, let me get him. Hey, thanks so much for doing this. Like, all that technical word crap. Was still, there was no intro, no outro, no bumpers, no music, no nothing. It just raw, it's a phone call. But those first 10, some of the people I interviewed, the content was so good that people started subscribing to the show, and it took off. And I said, oh, we need to make this a real show. We need some real production value. It needs to sound good. So that's how it started. And then you need to get the book published. The beauty of it is you can publish on CreateSpace on Amazon for free. It costs nothing. You just, once your files are laid out and formatted in the proper file format, you upload and poof, you're on Amazon and Kindle, because you should have a Kindle version. We ended up with so many clients doing this that we started a separate publishing company, BMD Publishing, which stands for Book Marketing Done For You, publishing, and so that this way, one, our separate publishing company could have our own imprint and publish everything, and then the cool part was we sent all of our clients $1, so then they could say they got an advance on their book.
Nice.
And they were published by a real publishing company as opposed to being self-published. So there's a tiny, stick thing at the bottom with a little logo on it. It says published by. And now you can say somebody else published my book as opposed to I did it myself. If you're local, you have a physical book launch party. So for example, all of our local professionals, our financial advisors, our doctors, our lawyers, our Indian chiefs, our whoever else that's in a local market, everybody that you interview who's local comes to a book launch party that we plan for you, or that you plan for yourself. So in that book launch party, you sign autographs, you take pictures, you're the celebrity, it's your book. And the really cool part is, if you're a financial advisor and your people in your book are accountants and attorneys, because they have your clients as that they can refer you to, they bring their clients to the book launch party because they're in a book. And how many people have ever been to a book launch party? Very few. So they invite all of their people that you want to meet to come see them at this book launch party and get the book they're in signed. So we've had 60 to 100 people show up at book launch parties that were all warm introductions, because they're waiting in line to meet you and get their picture and sign the book, and they're like, oh my God, I should talk to you. My lawyer's right here. He brought me here. I guess I should talk to you. If you are not in a local market, if you are national like we are, we do a virtual book launch party, like a webinar or a live cast. And obviously you can't physically, we can sign it and mail it, but you could have a book launch webinar where everybody gets together and talks about their experience and their expertise and things they learn and stuff they're working on, and they invite people to attend, and you can do a virtual version. It's not as cool as someone asking to get your picture taken, but it still works. Then you got to put it on do a book launch. So we have a process where we will take the Kindle version of the book, that's the virtual version, that's like the PDF file that costs you nothing, and we give it away for free on Kindle for a couple days. And then we do a massive amount of promotion, social media advertising, email, anything, smoke signals, whatever we can find, to get as many people to download that free book, that free ebook as possible. Because Amazon counts every free purchase the same way as a paid purchase in your book rank. Yes, little known loophole. So if you can get your book by getting enough free downloads to the Amazon bestseller list in your category for 24 hours, according to Amazon's terms of service, you can now say you are a best-selling author. And you can put the sticker on the front of your book, the big gold seal that says, number 2 Kindle, number 2 whatever bestseller. So now, what does that do for your credibility? What does that do for your authority? I did the very first version of a book of this process for another business I own, which was a financial services business. And I was pitching a union pension fund on why they should let us manage their hundreds of millions of dollars in their pension fund. And every couple of years, new officials take office, and they have to vet all the financial advisors and interview them and rebid the fund. So I was one of, at this time, rebidders, people bidding to bid on this project to manage their hundreds of millions of dollars, and I was the last one of the day to present. And in the conference room, when I walked in, there were 7 other business cards lined up on the table of all of the other advisors who had pitched that day. Now, I'm not going to recommend you do part of this. Going back in time, it would have changed a little bit. But when I gave my presentation, I scooped up all 7 of the other business cards. I ripped them in half. I threw them out, and I said, you don't need these anymore. And I dropped my book on the table, which is, you can pay extra and have it printed in hardcover. I dropped my hardcover book on the table, and then I slid one to every single member of the Board of Trustees, and then I gave my presentation. And then I waited outside and for them to discuss. Half an hour later, they called me back in and said, the president said, I gotta be honest with you. We're giving you the business. We're giving you the business because you wrote the book. None of the other advisors who pitched us today had written a book on the topic, and you wrote the book. But there are a couple of guys in here, a couple of the older guys in here, who wanted to punch you in the face because they thought it was really disrespectful that you ripped up the business cards and threw them out. I was a lot younger then. I said, you're right, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have ripped up the business cards, but I will happily take the check. So, that's the power of perceived value of being an author, because authors are celebrities in this marketplace, and if you have the bestseller sticker on the front, it makes it even better. And then one of the ways we use to make this a constant source of regular referrals is we have a monthly networking group of the people in the book. This can be physical if you're local, or virtual on Zoom, where everybody signs in at the same time if you're national. Now, the really cool part is, let's say you're a financial advisor. Everybody else in the book is a CPA or an attorney. You're the only advisor in the networking group because it's your group. So where do all the referrals go? You. If you are a presentator coach for CEOs and everybody else in the group's a CEO, well, the only logical choice is they got to use you, right? You get a monopoly because it's your group. So these are your 10 steps. Interview your ideal referral sources. Turn the interviews into a book. This is a summary of the 10. And then publish and market the book. And then stay in front of them. Whether that's keep airing new episodes of your podcast and building a relationship with new people, meeting with the people that you've already connected with on your show, dripping on them. Even if you don't do a monthly group, I would talk to them, I would call them, I would email them, I would send them postcards to stay in front of them, because either they're your ideal clients or they know people who are. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Who wants a book? Gotta move. You gotta move.
Guess I shouldn't have said 3 rows back.
Yes, try not to hurt each other. All right. So this is, where is it? Okay. So this is the exact process map we use in our office to do this all for you. Now, you probably can't see it all, so I'm going to walk you through it because even this screen isn't big enough. And some of the names have changed because we keep hiring more people. But the idea is, for your podcast, again, it's got to sound like a real radio show. So that means you need an intro. It needs a script. It needs voiceover. Professional, do not do your own voiceover. Diane will smack you. We've had clients try and do it. It does not sound good if the bridge is same voice to same voice. You need someone, preferably of the opposite gender, to introduce you. She's nodding like crazy, because she's seen it done wrong, and we have 4 or 5 voiceover actors and actresses who do all our work, but Diane sounds way better. Sorry, guys. You need cover art for your show, that thumbnail every week that shows up in iTunes. It gets people to want to listen to you. It gets people to click on you. If you've never listened to a podcast, you should start listening to them so you get an idea of what shows sound like. Obviously, if we're doing the work, we will build you your guest list for you and then go get your guests. Your episodes need to be edited because there are going to be times where someone says, wait, I didn't mean to say that. Hang on, wait, let me start over. If your iTunes shows have a rating, like PG, PG-13, explicit, if you don't warn your guests ahead of time, sometimes they will swear, and then that episode has to get marked explicit or you've got to cut it out. Even if they may not be swearing on purpose, it may be, oh shit, I forgot something. That counts. iTunes can sense it, can hear it. It's got to get syndicated. So iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio are the 800-pound gorillas. That's where we post the audio of your show. That's where I would post it if I were you. Assuming you did a Zoom interview, you now have a video as well. That should get edited. You should have a video intro and outro, and taken the bad chunks out of the video. And then that should go to YouTube and be a web TV show. Guess what? Zoom also will allow you to take your interview and stream it as a Facebook Live if you want, and YouTube Live. So if you think about this, your 20 to 30 minute interview a week is pretty much all the content you need. Because you've got video, you've got audio, you've got live if you want. You're going to have a transcription that's edited, so theoretically that could be social media content. That could be a long-form blog post. It could be, each episode could be its own ebook, which Kevin and I do, which is another secret strategy. And then when you have enough, you have a whole book. So that's a ton of content out of one thing. Now, really cool thing about making an ebook out of each episode is that we publish it, and the co-author of each Kindle book, the 3 authors are me, Kevin, and our guest. So now, you may not have a co-host, it doesn't matter, but now guess what happens? Those rank on Amazon. So if you go into Amazon, which is a buyer search engine, as opposed to Google, which is just a search engine, because everyone going to Amazon is looking for something to buy, and you type in Kevin Harrington, he's got 2 books, but guess what? My name shows up like 18 times. Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Chicken soup for the soul.
Exactly. I wish I had come, that's where I stole it from. Yes, so if, for example, you go search Michael Drew, you go search Cameron Harold, you go search some of the amazing people we've interviewed, in some cases, if they haven't written a book, I show up before they do. So we're getting clients from people looking for other people who then read the 99-cent ebook and then say, oh, I was looking for that guy, but this is really cool, I should hire them. Heck, you could even interview your competition on purpose and start ranking for them. You might have done that once or twice. All right, so again, you need a book cover, you need to edit it, you need your book edited, you need it published, and then obviously you need social media marketing campaigns, not only to get listeners to the show, but also to get people for the book. So our podcast promotion plan for every episode is email your guest the date their show will air, send them the graphics, send them what to post. You cannot leave it up to them. You cannot assume that they know what to write about your show. They will either not do it or screw it up or make you look worse. Write it for them and say, just hit copy and paste. You may need to call and say, do you know how to hit copy and paste? Just kidding. The jokes don't get any better, by the way. You got to air the show. We actually physically call the guests and say, did you post it on your social network? Because even if you email them, sometimes they forget. We nag them. You have to tell everybody in the world about your show. So that's Facebook, that's LinkedIn, that's Twitter, that's YouTube, that's Instagram, that's everywhere. And then if you've got the budget, depending on what your budget is, we would suggest running Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Twitter ads, YouTube ads, Instagram ads, because as you know, hopefully you know, Facebook, for example, is not a social network. They are an advertising agency. They make no money from social. Billions of users, they make no money. They only make money by serving ads that entrepreneurs pay for in front of those users and those users engaging with those ads. That's their only source of revenue. So that is why if you have a Facebook fan page and you run a post for your business, only 1% of your audience will see it. Because Facebook makes you pay to play. And if you give them money, they will show it to the rest of those people who are your fans that you have to pay to access. That's how Zuckerberg makes his money. So if you can afford it, you should absolutely run paid traffic from all of those networks to get you more people. So, how many of you are excited about what we're talking about? All right, we got a couple of woos. All right, but how many of you maybe feel like this guy? I mean, maybe you're drinking from a fire hose because I just gave you a ton of information. So you're overwhelmed. You're drinking from a fire hose, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's hope because it sounds really cool and you're like, you know what, I could do some of that. Now, the reason I talked about why your podcast episode should be 20 to 30 minutes is because most audio podcasts are consumed while people are multitasking. They don't just sit and listen. They're doing something. So the average time on a treadmill is 30 minutes. The average commute in a normal city is 20 to 30 minutes. So make your show 20 to 30 minutes because people then will consume the whole thing. If you are Tony Robbins or Gary Vaynerchuk or Tim Ferriss, then your show can be an hour and a half. And even then, people will still drop off, but you have a much greater chance of holding their attention for the hour and a half because you're already famous, already have a following, and they already want to consume every word that you say. If you are not any of those people, start with 20 to 30 minutes. It's also hard to be interesting for 90 minutes, even if it is an interview, because eventually you will run out of things to talk about. So, 20 to 30 minutes. That's how long your interview should be. Is it okay if I share with you how you can get this all done for you? So you don't have to do any of the work. Awesome. All right. So first, is it worth it? Should you have a podcast? Should you turn it into a book? And should you use this to change your positioning in the marketplace? Yes. So these are my three kids. So that is Ella. We are on the set of CBS where we're getting interviewed because she launched a children's book. She is 9.5. Every night because it was always read me a bedtime story, read me a bedtime story, read me a bedtime story, I decided to make up my own bedtime story that summarized the plot points of every Disney movie. And I told her that story every day for a long time. And she finally got frustrated with me and said, Daddy, I got a better story. I wrote one. So she told me her story, and I said, you need to write that down. She wrote it down, and I said, holy, you wrote a book. And she said, I did? I said, you wrote a children's board book, like the kind your little sister reads, who's 5. And she did. She said, I did. I said, you did. I said, so let's get it illustrated, let's get it published, and let's get you a book. So that's us, CBS News, getting interviewed about 9-year-old author writes a book. She wrote a book. She didn't do a podcast, but she wrote a book. But giving you a podcast and book has changed my life and changed that of our clients to the point where now I can do stuff like this. This is Lily, our 5-year-old. She's our dancer. That's her dance costume before dance. And this is Max, our 11-year-old, who's our star soccer goalie. That's him diving to make a save. That's the other goalie looking on because this is a tournament that ended in a tie, so we went to penalty kicks and a shootout to determine who wins, and he's frustrated because Max is awesome. But I've coached soccer for 8 years, been at every single game except for if I'm here. Every single game, every single practice I've been. Ella's our actress. This is so cool. Like a month ago, we flew to New York City because she got an audition to play young Anna in the Broadway show Frozen, based on the movie. So they haven't cast yet, so we don't know if she's got it. So we're permanently on pins and needles on if we're moving to New York or not, because we live in Buffalo. Broadway's Manhattan. Yeah. So she goes, Daddy, what happens if I get it? I say, well, we're not commuting. Then we move to New York while you're in the show. So the fact that they told us on a Friday, hey, can you bring her in on Monday? They didn't realize we didn't live in New York. And they said, hey, can you bring her in on Monday for an audition? And when I said, we don't live in New York, and they said, well, you could send a YouTube video. And I said, it won't be the same. I said, she sparkles way more in person than even though she has a YouTube channel and she has 5,000 followers, she sparkles way more in person. So we flew. And I could afford to do that and miss work, take off of work and move stuff around. Because again, the podcast and the book, we don't have to worry about where our next clients are coming from anymore. Because we get people wanting to hire us every single week from the show. But that's me. This is David Braun, who's again a local financial advisor. This is his book and show, Navigating Life Transitions. And he said, sorry for the delay for the testimonial. So busy, the book has already been a huge success. I gave 3 copies to each participant with a letter explaining how to order more, using your template, and mentioning the luncheons. He did a lunch book party. I expected the response to be positive. The response has been he wrote that, not me, very positive, with participants telling me of their plans for marketing with the book. Your process wasn't what I expected. I'm not sure what I expected. It took longer than I thought. However, you got me in front of CPAs and attorneys I otherwise never could have met. I've already gotten referrals and business from them, and my book isn't even out yet. I'm very happy with my results so far. So it works. It works in national, it works in local, it works business to consumer, it works business to business. We've got it in niches you don't even know exist. The strangest niche we've ever been in is Elvis impersonators. We got an info marketer who is selling products to Elvis impersonators on how to be a better Elvis impersonator and make more money being an Elvis impersonator. You didn't know that was a target market. I didn't either. They have conventions in the city called Las Vegas. It's crazy. There's 1,500,000 Elvises in one room.
Thank you very much.
All right, so our normal price to do all of this is $2,000 a month. Now, you know you're not going to pay $2,000 a month because Ken twisted my arm and said you have to give our Impact Livecast people a very special deal. But at $2,000 a month to do it all for you, would it be worth it?
Sure.
Yes, exactly. This is our friend Tony Robbins, who says if you continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to get what you've always got. So if you want to get something different, you got to do something different. And the good news is we make it easy for you. Now, because we do all of the work, there are two big reasons why people don't do this. One, they procrastinate. That was supposed to be funny. All right, one, they procrastinate, and two, because of the money. So here is our irresistible, time-sensitive deadline offer to get you over both of those, which lasts for 24 hours because I leave Saturday morning. All right, so we will do all 10 steps for you. So we will build your list of who you want to be on your show. Obviously, working with your account rep will work directly with you and figure all that out and then go do all the research and find them. We will do our proven multi-step, multimedia, direct response marketing campaign to get them to say yes to the interview. And the request will come from us, not from you. So then it's coming from a podcast net company, production company that's producing dozens and dozens of shows and has people like Kevin on their shows. So we get a whole lot more yeses than if you do it yourself, unless you're already famous to your target market. We'll write the interview scripts for you. So all you have to do is read, but don't sound like you're reading. Don't literally look down, and we had someone do it where they read, "What is your biggest challenge?" And I said, that is not compelling interview. You actually have to have a conversation with people. You don't have to read it verbatim, just to give you an idea. You do it on Zoom. You're 20 to 30 minutes a week. Zoom has a share link for the files. You email us that, we do the rest. We will not only do all the production for the podcast and all of the syndication, we will also transcribe the interviews with real physical people. We'll physically type it, we'll edit it, we'll do the graphic design of both the podcast and the book, we'll do the layout of the book, we'll do the publishing of the book, and yes, I'll send you $1, so you can say you got an advance on your book. If you are physical, we will plan your book launch party for you. We'll write the invitations, we'll coordinate the guests, we'll literally do everything. If you are virtual or national, we'll do a virtual CEO book launch party for you. We will do your book launch on Amazon using our strategies so that you can be, this is Cal Reese, who is #1 for budgeting and #3 for money management. This is John Smith. That is literally his name, is John Smith, who's in the Washington area, who is #1 for elder care and #7 for healthy living. Because again, those were the topics that their stuff was about. And if you want to do the monthly group, we will plan it all for you. Again, our regular price for all of that is $2,000 a month. Is it worth it? I'm biased. I say yes. Today for the MCAST Live special, it is only $14.97 a month for everything. So you get $500 off. All of those details are at marketdominationllc.com/podcastgold, because that's our gold level. Or you can see Karen in the back, who has the 8 order forms I brought with me. There's only 8 because that's our bandwidth. We can only take on 8 more shows right now. So it's first come, first serve. If you're online and you get in before 8 people here, then you're in. After 8, literally, if we take an extra order, I will refund your money because we physically can't handle anymore. Now that's the podcast gold level. But wait, as my friend Kevin says, there's more. We have a platinum level. So at the platinum level, you get everything you see here. In the gold level, plus, we will do ego bait graphics for every episode. What we mean by ego bait is this podcast is a successful pitch by John Livesey, the pitch whisperer. You will see he interviewed Larry, and Larry had this question. Larry had whatever this quote was. So instead of just doing the successful pitch and having Larry's picture next to him, we do the ego bait graphics where we take out like one of the best quotes of the show, turn it into a quote, and then magically you see Larry sharing this with everybody because it's ego bait. It makes him look even better than just his picture next to Jonathan's. So we will do ego bait graphics for every episode. We will not only transcribe it for the book, but we'll rewrite it as a long form 2,000 to 3,000 word blog post for search engine optimization purposes. We'll rewrite it so it's optimized for the keywords you want your website to rank for, and then we'll blast it out through our proprietary SEO software that will get it to rank really fast. This is Mitch Russo, who says, in less than 30 days, his website gained 70 organic keywords per week, improved his Alexa ranking by 200,000, and increased social media shares by 50%. Because he ranked for the keywords he wanted every single week. Because Google is not static. If you put something up and rank it once, and then forget about them, like you met her in a bar, you took her home, and then you never called her again, she stops ranking you. Google's temperamental, right? She wants lots of love and attention. You gotta get her flowers every week. You gotta keep doing stuff. So if you keep putting out episodes every week and we keep ranking them every week, what happens to your website if all of a sudden you're on the first page for what you want to be on the first page for? I can't guarantee. My lawyers will say I cannot guarantee you that. Google changes their algorithm every 5 seconds. However, it has worked in the past. That's at marketdominationllc.com/podcast platinum. It's normally $3,000 a month because of all the extra work involved and the manual labor. However, you get an even better deal if you do platinum. Instead of $500 off, you get $1,000 off, and it's $19.97 a month. So those are both at either marketdominationllc.com/podcast gold or /podcast platinum, or you can grab one of the 8 order forms in the back from Karen. And at this point, you have mics, we'll open it up for Q&A. You can ask about your business, you can ask me whatever, this is an ask me anything. You can make me role play and put me to work. I mean role play from a business perspective.
You do Elvis?
No, I cannot do Elvis.
All right, I'll start off the question.
Okay, one and then
That's
back.
fine.
No, go ahead.
Your clients are making your money by people buying the books, and you are calling them directly to engage their services?
Okay, so our clients make money, if it's up to me, a whole bunch of different ways. So the goal is not, in my opinion, and you could be different, but my opinion is I don't want to make any money selling my book. My book is lead generation. This is, I would rather give this away for free, which I've done, to get you to say, wow, this is awesome, I want to hire that company to do that. So the podcast and the book the book is the ultimate business card. As you saw, there were 7 business cards on that table. I won because I had a book, not a business card. It's the same for you, whether it's a pension fund or a real estate deal or whatever you're doing. So the point of the podcast gets you in front of a new audience. The point of the book, again, another new audience. iTunes and Amazon are 2 of the most visited sites on the world. You got to be there if you're going to be anywhere. And the whole goal is to increase your positioning. And if you've got a podcast, I mean, you can get to almost anybody. I mean, I'll tell you a story because you're coaching CEOs. So we have a golf coach as a client, like local golf coach. And he was charging $75 an hour for lessons. He was the pro at the country club, and he was doing $75 an hour on the side. And I said, you got to think bigger than that. I said, if I can wave a magic wand and get you your like dream client, no limit, as much money as you want, who would it be? And that's one of my favorite questions. And he said, man, I'd love to coach like Fortune 500 CEOs, but I've got no way to get to them. I can't cold call. I can't send direct mail. There's 87 gatekeepers. There's no way. I said, you're going to start a podcast on CEOs in golf, how they use it for networking, the deals they make on the golf course, stuff like that. And we're going to reach out to them and get them to do the show and talk about their golf game and their business. And that's how you're going to start a relationship with them. But you're not going to sell them $75 an hour. I said, we're going to create the ultimate Fortune 500 CEO dream golf program. And they have to fly you to wherever they are, because they're not coming to Buffalo, because we don't have a long golf season. It snows a lot. So they have to fly you to wherever they are, either their private country club and put you up in a 5-star hotel for a couple days to work with them, or they've got to fly you and them to their dream golf course like St. Andrews and play. And it's going to be like 4 times a year, and the rest of the time you're available will be like Skype. They get a monthly Skype, they show you a swing, and you say, that's awful, fix it. And it's $100,000 a year. And he said, no one's ever going to buy that. I said, trust me. Even if they don't, your $50,000 a year program looks a lot more reasonable. He said, I don't have a $50,000 a year program. I said, you do now.
Yeah.
So we started the podcast. The CEOs responded way more than I thought they would, because they're like, I'd love to talk about golf. No one ever asked me about golf. I'm in the charity tournaments, but nobody ever talks about golf in business. This is awesome. I get to talk about golf for half an hour. My wife doesn't want to hear about it. This is great. And literally, he got his first 6-figure client when the show had 9 listeners. Guy didn't, he was like, so his question, what's your biggest challenge in your golf game? Oh, it's my slice. Hey, do you mind if I created a DVD for you on ways to fix your slice? Okay, if I send it to you. Oh my God, that'd be great. Sends it, shock and awe box, follow up, your application to be considered for the lifetime, for the dream golf program. Guy says, sign me up. Done. This golf coach used to come to my physical mastermind that I have every month in Western New York that we stream online for everybody who is around the world. And he used to be there every month, and we haven't seen him in over a year because he's always posting pictures that he's on some tropical place playing golf with some big shot. Off of a podcast, the book, he is now the U.S. junior team Olympic coach because of the show, because someone heard it, and because he had a book that was #1 on Amazon for golf. It was higher than Sports Illustrated golf book a day, but it counts. So does that sort of answer your question? Awesome.
Does your company offer services in different languages or just English?
That's a really good question. We offer services in different languages. So no, I got nothing. So you would be responsible.
That's a start.
Yeah. You would have to be responsible for translating to English, and then we could edit and produce and promote from there. We do have one international client, right? 2 international clients, one in Australia, but that's English. We have one in the Ukraine. However, he's doing the show in English.
I do show both languages.
Ah.
I do English and then I do Slovak version.
Okay, so we can help you with the English version.
Thanks.
Slovak, I know nada. Nada's probably not Slovakian.
No.
Thank you, Seth. I just have to say, that was amazing. Wasn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
And your pricing